and welcome to my channel. Welcome back. On this channel we talk everything books, we talk nursing, medicine, university, anything to do with books and learning and reading and all those wonderful things. So thank you for returning. Today we are going to talk about a book by Miss Kelly St. Clair. And it's a supernatural fiction, and without further ado, let's get into the book. Hi, and welcome back to the channel. Today we are filming. In my previous video, I said that I would talk about my Amazon read. So I've read a trilogy on Amazon. I was sent the first one for free, and then I purchased the other two. So it's an online read that is on my phone. Now I am filming on my phone today, so I can't show the picture on my phone. Anyway, so let's talk about how I got to start reading this trilogy. So I received the first book for free. So Amazon sent me a message like, hi, hello, we've got a free book for you. And I was very grateful. I'm like, thank you very much. And I started reading the book. Now, the first book was okay, it was gripping. And I thought, oh, I want to know what happens, So I purchased the second book for 99 pence. So that wasn't bad. Purchased the second book for 99 pence. And then I finished the second book and I'm like, the third book, I wonder what happens. So that was the third and final book, and I purchased that for £2.80. So it's, it's a way to reel you in. You throw a line with the first free book and then you purchase the other two, but they weren't very expensive, so that was fine. To be honest, it wouldn't be a book that I would have purchased independently. If I wasn't given a little nudge by Amazon, I wouldn't have purchased it. So the name of the author is Kelly St. Clair, and Kelly St. Clair, I'm sure is not a real name. I think it's a pseudonym. It's an author's name. It sounds like an author's name. And the book is about vampires and werewolves and humans and stuff like that. So Kelly St. Clair is a fitting name for that sort of genre, you know what I mean? So she has written quite a bit of supernatural book, a substantial amount, should I say substantive amount of supernatural books. I've never heard of her. If you've heard of her, leave a comment down below and tell me if you've read any of her books and if you like them. And as I say, it's all about things like werewolves and vampires and dragon shifters and all that sort of stuff that teenagers like, but that is not true, because lots of adults like it as well. So I'm gonna say, if you like fan fiction and fantasy, then this is the book for you. So book one started off with Andy, and Andy's mom had just died, and while she was preparing for the burial, she's the only child, preparing for the burial and the funeral, she found a will. Her mom left a will, and she found out about a place called Deception Valley. So that's how the book kicked off. The mom left her in debt and all of that, so she thought, because the will said the mom wanted to be buried in Deception Valley, she would go to Deception Valley. So the book, that's the backdrop of the story and how the book started. So she went to scatter her mom's ashes and all of that, and it led her to meeting family and realizing that she has family. She's not just an only child with a mom that has no family. So that just kicked off the book. Then book one overall was quite gripping. Andy met Sasha, and their interaction in book one, I think, was a typical interaction of, I would say, a teenage boy and girl, even though they're not in teenage years. It's written specifically for a teenage audience, I think. And so basically their relationship and their interactions, I think, is tailored for teenage years. Some parts of the book I laughed out loud. I'll tell you this, I was on the train reading it on my phone, And there I was cackling away. So the train came to my stop and I got up, and one of my students came over and said, I've been watching you looking at your phone and laughing. And I didn't want to say hi because I thought you were talking, you're talking to someone. And I'm like, actually, I'm not talking to anyone. I'm reading a book. And she was so shocked. She's like, you're reading a book and laughing out loud on the train. But I mean, for people who love books and people who read, they will get it. They will know that sometimes you're reading a book and the book can make you cry. The book overwhelms you and make you cry, or it gives you a joke, and you're just carried away. You're in a whole complete different world. And so this is why I recommend reading, because it takes you away from all the things that you're thinking about, takes you away from all your problems, if you have any. I mean, everybody's got an issue or two in life, right? But it takes you away from all of that. So it's good to read. Book 2 was, let's say for book 1, I'll give it 6 out of 10, I think. 6 out of 10 for book 1. Book 2 was not as good. So Andy becomes the leader of the stewards who are in charge of Deception Valley, and they're known as the Naitaki. And then, her relationship with Sasha blossoms. And also there's other, I don't know, I don't want to give away too much about the book. She met a cousin, and the relationship with the cousin is discussed as well, and it probably wasn't as good as it could be. But some parts of the book I think felt a little bit forced, like the author wasn't sure who she wanted Andy to be, and so because she wasn't sure who she wanted Andy to be, Andy's a little all over the place and a little bit emotional, and not only emotional, but to be in such a strong leadership position. And I'm probably saying this from a grown-up point of view, not a teenage point of view. For being in such a place of great position, I felt like she was a little bit too childish, a little bit too emotional. So the book, in some place, the dialogue with Sasha seemed to be a little bit more grown up, and well, he's a werewolf, so probably is a little bit more grown up. But like seriously, the dialogue seemed a little bit forced, and the best friend interaction I didn't enjoy so much. And I'm going to put this down to my age. I'm really going to put this down to my age. And the reason is, I think if you're a teenager, you would enjoy that sort of dialogue. I didn't really. I think it's a little bit over the top. Not a lot over the top for me, my liking. And I feel like the author had to make things that were impossible possible to fit in with the narrative of who Andy is. Yeah. So I felt like the book wrote her. She didn't write the book. She wrote the book to fit in with a certain narrative. And I think any book reader or author knows that sometimes you have to change your main character to fit into what you're writing. She didn't change Andy, and I felt that Andy needed changing, and she didn't do that. So for this book, I would say 4 out of 10 for this book. There were some good interactions with Sasha and Andy. I enjoyed quite a bit of the interaction with Sasha and Andy in this one, but overall not so much. I was invested, and so I bought book 3. And book 3 was delving deep into the relationship with Andy and Sasha. This again, I think, seemed quite forced in book 3. He took a back seat, and if you can know, like any alpha male in this book, he's called a sigma male, would never take a back seat in important things. And he was meant to he was taking a back seat in things that are super important. But once again, let's say this is a teenage fantasy book, so I didn't like how they wrote the strong woman who didn't need a man to make decisions, because you make better decisions when you make a decision as a team. And I felt like Andy was doing it all solo, and Sasha took a back seat, even with things that had to do with his pack and to do with impact on his on the werewolves that he's leading. I felt like, yeah, the author could have made him more involved, make him more. Miss Sinclair, I really feel like you could have made him more involved. He wasn't as masculine as I thought he should be. Maybe that's what I'm trying to say. But the most important aspect of the books, I think, was that keep in mind that everything surrounds a game, and who wins get their permanent home in Deception Valley. So that's what the book is surrounded by. And so most of the book will talk about the game and how to win the game and how they plan to win the game. So their strategies and their moves and all of that and how to win the game. And so to conclude all three books, I would say the series started off strong on the first one, but waned. And there was a few laughs in the first one. I didn't cry. There was no cries. I feel like the characters were a little bit self-indulgent and unsure of their place in the world. They weren't sure if they were coming or going, as we'd say. They just weren't sure if they were coming or going. I think in terms of similar books, I would recommend Soraya Cage. Soraya Cage is absolutely fantastic and phenomenal. I read her years ago, and I read her book Summon a Vampire, which was absolutely fantastic. I might reread that and give a review on it. It's a series as well, actually, so I might reread that and give a review. And together, all three books, I would say 3 out of 10 with all three books, or maybe 4. Let's give it 4 out of 10 for all three books combined. Would I recommend it? At my age, no. At my age, no. If you are my niece who's 14, yes, because it doesn't contain, it doesn't contain any sex and a little bit of violence, but not too much sex and stuff like that. So I would recommend it for a young audience. I haven't read any more of her books, and I don't plan to read any more of her books because I feel very much that her books aren't mature enough for me.